Hi, I'm Chris Halo, and I'm a professional audio engineer in New York City. Been doing this about 20 years. And today I'm going to talk about a reaction video. I'm going to react to IxI reacting to one of my submissions for her monthly writing exercises. IxI is an amazing describer, I guess. What she fulfills in my life is that she's incredibly intelligent about breaking music down and talking about music that I listen to, like Nine Inch Nails. That's how I became aware of her. Was her music analysis of Nine Inch Nails tracks, and I would say she's probably the only person on Patreon that I have or will support on that platform. She has totally earned it. If you have a chance to listen to her talk about music, just sort of nerd out and talk about it on a musical level and play out tracks, and I highly recommend that you support this creator. It's been a very rewarding experience for me. Anyway, so I am in her education tier on Patreon, and I submitted in December. She had provided a loop, a synth line loop, and we were encouraged to sort of do whatever we could to that loop. And so I took a stab at it, and she listened to it and reacted to it. So I thought I would react to her reaction in typical YouTube fashion. Anyway, so here we go. This is IxI reacting to my December submission, which turned out to be a remix of an old track that I wrote. Here we go.
Our next submission comes from Chris Pierce. You guys know him as Halo Askew in Discord. He said, December Flat 60s Challenge. I started in Ableton, created 6 variations of the synth stem, then layered in some pulses and piano plus strings, played using the keyboard I acquired from Perceptes. Ah, nice. I get it now. You were talking about that at the last meeting. I pulled everything into Logic, dug out some vocals that were recorded in 2000, and really leaned into phrase downbeats evolving independently, yet musically, over time. I remember Drifting being the last song I wrote with Mind Static in that time period. So it was neat to have the neo-electro classical leanings that Mind Static had at the time while listening to tracks that broke the band up and creating something interesting to listen to. Wow. That's a lot here. Mind Static was a band you were in, I'm guessing?
Yes, Mind Static was a band that I was in from approximately 1997 to 2001 with my best friend from high school in Brandon, Florida. We used to have a running joke that you could look up Brandon, Florida in an encyclopedia, and it would be represented by a picture of a garage band. So yeah, we were a garage band who was electronic, did more dark wave stuff. We even ended up on a Cleopatra Records release that sort of documented the Tampa underground experience, and yeah, that was sort of our first claim to fame, I guess, if you could call it fame.
Drifting, Halo and IxI remix with some very creative use of X's and lowercase and uppercase. Nice.
Thank you, Skinny Puppy.
That sounds awesome. I can hear the tone of it. It's so different. Beautiful. Okay, that was very cool. I was trying to figure out. So, I love the way you messed with the sample. And I mean, it went through the whole song. I could hear it. Just that tone, that kind of whiny, wide open filter tone of the synth, but it made into like an ambient layer. That was so cool. I loved that. And then, and then you brought in the melody from the sample low or octave doubled or something. And it's cool to hear it down there. It sounded good. It sounded nice. It was like almost a bass.
Yeah, I when I pull up the Ableton project here in a second, I did take what the lead sample was doing. I octaved it down, and then I put a couple of plugins on there that sort of synthesized and enhanced the low octave. So yeah, that's what you're hearing. It worked. It felt very good, didn't it?
But then I was like, I'm hearing the timing, like the downbeat where I put it. And I was like, wait, no, the chords are changing somewhere else. It's different. And then I lined up my beats with your chords, and then I heard it. And this is what I think, at least, that you shifted it so that the
right. It's hard.
I forgot. Frick.
Right. No, and that is on purpose. And you'll see that when I pull up the Ableton. Like, I took your original phrase, which I think you said was originally a 6/8, and it was a full 16 bar loop. But when I pulled it to Ableton, I made it a 15 bar loop. And that resulted in the downbeat of how you perceive the downbeat. It changes to the one beat of the next measure every time the loop replays. So every one beat of your phrase has an opportunity to be the downbeat of the phrase. And it sort of works itself out because you sort of resolve to the same note. And I think, yeah, so that's what you're hearing. And then you don't really perceive it that way until I bring in the piano and the strings, because with the piano, I've included that 16th bar in its phrasing. So now the piano downbeat of the phrase is shifting forward a measure every time it repeats, while the downbeat of the sample itself is shifting forward every time it repeats. So you sort of create this sort of really fluid, the downbeats are evolving musically over time.
So you took a note off, right?
No, I remapped it so that it only occupied 15 measures as opposed to 16 measures.
So that it took two notes off so that it turned into 4/4. Am I hearing that right?
And of course, the struggle that you're having justifying in your brain what the phrase length should be and what it actually is the point. It is supposed to throw you off. It drifting. It will we're morphizing the title of the track with the process and structure of the song.
Something. Anyway, it's a whole new interpretation of that set of notes too. It's really cool. Yeah, I'm a fan. That's really neat. Thank you, Chris.
So, as promised, here we go. I'll show you behind the hood of this track. I started everything out in Ableton, and you'll see here you have the original synth line as IxI provided it. And if we look at that, you'll see I've done a couple of anchors just to make sure that your root notes hit and something that feels right. And the loop ends after bar 15, whereas usually you would end it after bar 16. I think when I was trying to do this, I just didn't like how it sounded at 16 bars, and so I opted for this. And then when you go in here and you look at this isn't just I scrolled it out and repeated it. I had to actually land where I wanted that sample to begin. And what I wanted was to fully encapsulate the idea of with feeling. This song, I'm writing it as the spirit moves, is usually what I call it. I have an old buddy of mine that I've done a lot of shows with, and he He's a touring violinist for like Peter Murphy and Jonathan Davis. And whenever we do a show together, we our rehearsal is usually just either over text or over the phone. We're like, well, we're going to play this as the spirit moves. And so that's really what is happening here. It was an accident that I timed that initial synth phrase to 15 bars, but I liked it enough that I wanted to keep it. And your brain doesn't really process that as you're listening to that sample play. Your brain thinks you're hearing downbeats when there really aren't. You're predisposed to want to hear a steady pulse. And so the synth line itself, the downbeat of the one that you think you're hearing is always going to be a certain note, and I'm letting it drift, and then maybe that note's going to hit at a specific point in another part, but then I let it drift. I'm just playing it with feeling. And then when I pulled a repeat of that phrase in, I didn't do it to a grid. There's no grid here. I purposefully did not want any grid. And that sort of helps because with the octave low, I mean, whatever. So yeah, it's gone down low. And I have these two plugins that sort of contextualize it being a bass line. But then I have these two Paul X stretch. And it's really just, I ran it through. I didn't pay attention to the time. I didn't care how long it was being stretched. I just wanted it to stretch it for a really long time. And because it's happening in the same key, anything I play, whether it's a piano or strings or another synthesizer line, it's always going to match because the key is always going to match. It doesn't matter what the BPM is. So you have a shortened phrase here at 95.74 BPM. But then both of these tracks, these Paul X tracks, BPM wasn't a consideration when they were created. And we're just going to let that happen. And then I take this original line and I run it through Stutter Edit. So this line is actually playing at 95.74 BPM as well as this. And that's why it works and it matches up. Those are the only 2 or 3 tracks that are playing at that BPM. And they're shortened, which means that your perception of where your downbeat is always going to be different if you're trying to justify an equal timing for your downbeat. And then Nectarine. And then once I brought in the Nectarine, which has my piano and the strings, I had realized my mistake at this point, and I was like, all right, well, when I play this phrase, I'm going to include that 16th bar. So now my downbeat, beat 1 of my piano phrase is going to shift in relation to the original downbeat of the synth line. And it's always going to be off by 1. So, and then the downbeat of that phrase is already off by 1. So now we have this really complex evolution of downbeats happening. But because I'm playing it with feeling or as the spirit moves me, it all still makes sense. You know, everything seems connected, even though that's really artificial. It was grids had nothing to do with any of this. And then I follow it up with a recording I have of all the scenes in the movie Silent Hill that the Pyramid Head character appears in. So this is like 5 scenes that have been sort of mega edit into one long playing effects. So anything that sounds like machine-like or any sort of vocals that aren't a lead, like melodic vocal, that's coming from that Silent Hill sample. And so as you can tell here, now I'm able to do this because now I've completely transformed what those samples mean. And I could take those samples out of the track and the intention and meaning of the track is still going to be the same. It's going to mean the same thing. I have not created a Silent Hill track. I've created a track where something from Silent Hill accidentally fits into, and that's how I get my ability to use this track and publish it that way. So then once I almost left this as it was, and I realized I could probably do a little better if I pulled everything into Logic. So now here we go. This is my Logic session, and this is where I brought in these vocal tracks that I recorded back in 2000. Wendy, and this is from Mindstatic. She was my partner in Mindstatic. Now these vocal tracks were recorded at 130 BPM, and I just let that be. I wanted to see how far we could let this different BPM play and it match in some sort of musical way, and it does. And you can see here, I only had to twice really line up what she's doing, but so the track is technically going at 95 beats per minute, 0.74 beats per minute. But then you have some other elements of the track that are at an unknown BPM. And then you have this element of the track that is at 130 BPM, which is not an equal corresponding number to the core BPM. And I liked how it evolved downbeats independently, yet musically, over time. And there at the end where you hear me add the high strings and I kind of do that half step down and resolve back up, I'm referencing the original string tracks. There are string tracks that originally appeared in this track, and I just chose not to use them. I wanted to replay it. I wanted to do something different, but I paid homage to those original string tracks in that moment. And I can see your face react and be moved by it. You know, it was a good idea. So yeah, that's how I made the track. I really appreciate that you took the time to listen to it and comment on it, and I appreciate your commentary, and I look forward to participating more as we move forward. Thank you.